You're watching a BBC News special on the crash of a Germanwings passenger jet in southern France. Hello, I'm Ros Atkins.
And I'm Emily Maitlis. The plane with 150 people on board crashed in the Alps. The French president says no survivors are expected to be found.
I would like to express our sentiments with regard to the families who are today in mourning and in waiting for news.
The Airbus A320 was operated by budget airline Germanwings and was flying from Barcelona to Duesseldorf. The German Chancellor says she'll travel to the region tomorrow.
This is a time and an hour of a great sorrow, of great grief. We should be thinking about people who have lost relatives and also friends.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. A passenger plane carrying 150 people has crashed in the French Alps. The French President, François Hollande, says no survivors are likely. Flight 4U9525 took off from Barcelona in Spain at 8:55 in the morning GMT and was flying to Düsseldorf in Germany. Officials say they're still trying to establish whether a distress call was actually made.
It crashed en route near the ski resort of Pralou, close to the mountain of Tête de l'Estro. Search and rescue teams are heading to the site. The French Interior Ministry spokesman, Pierre-Henri Brondet, says debris from the crash has been located. He said the plane came down at an altitude of 2,000 metres after sending out a distress signal at 10:45 a.m. local time. Our transport correspondent Richard Westcott has more.
It's a crash that shocked the world. This old footage, shot some time ago, shows the actual aircraft that has come down in France. 150 people were on board today's flight. The French president says all are feared dead.
I have the will to find out if there were no other consequences of the accident that happened at a very difficult area to access, and we will find more in the next hours to come. While waiting, we have to show solidarity, which will be our first sentiment. Thank you.
So what do we know? The Germanwings Airbus took off from Barcelona at 8:55 UK time, heading for Düsseldorf. For a while, the speed and height appear normal. But at 9:30, things change. The figures at the bottom of the screen show the plane began losing height and speed. At some point, the pilot made a distress call. Then it crashed in a remote part of the Alps. That rugged terrain will make rescue difficult.
It's behind us, so we can't see anything. We don't really know exactly where the plane is because the mountain is quite high mountain, and then a deep mountain above. Yeah. So it's complicated to locate the plane, and the area is difficult, but the access is difficult.
At the airport in Düsseldorf, where the aircraft should have landed, a comforting arm for relatives, but they now face an agonising wait for details. Experts say the speed that this aircraft came down will be a major worry for airlines and plane makers.
There was something catastrophic. There was quite serious failure. He was at altitude. Evidently something catastrophic happened, and he didn't have the opportunity, the chance to descend to an appropriate level and then attempt a landing at an airport.
An Airbus A320 takes off somewhere in the world every 2 seconds. It's one of the most popular planes in the skies. Until now, the safety record has been excellent, but investigators will start by looking for any common faults that might just appear in other aircraft.
Richard Westcott with that report. Well, just a short time ago, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel made a brief statement on what she knew of the crash.
Everything will be investigated very carefully. At the moment, we are shocked by the extent of the accident, which has brought disaster to so many people. My thoughts and my sympathies go out to everybody who is affected, to families and people who have lost their relatives and friends. The very bad fortune of those people, of those families, is in the center of our attention, and it is very hard hours that we are going through now. Over the last few hours, I have been talking with my friend and colleague, Monsieur Hollande, and the French and the Spanish Prime Minister, Mr. Rajoy, and they are taking part in the investigation. They're doing their utmost in order to investigate the cause of the accident. The German Foreign Office has established a task force that coordinates the work. Foreign Minister Mr. Steinmeier and the Transport Minister Mr. Dobrindt are on their way to the accident site, to the accident region, and I will try to make a picture for myself and also be able to talk with people in the area. But at the moment, and by way of conclusion, let me tell you, please, that this is a time and an hour of a great sorrow, of great grief. We should be thinking about people who have lost relatives and also friends.
Angela Merkel speaking a little bit earlier, just looking at the BBC Live page on this story. It's quoting a Belgian newspaper which has been speaking to the Belgian Foreign Affairs Minister, who's saying at least one Belgian was aboard this flight. Also, French police at the crash site have been speaking to the Reuters news agency, and they are saying that no one has survived this crash, but it could take days to recover the bodies of those who were on board. Well, this plane was travelling from Barcelona to Duesseldorf. Of course, it hasn't reached its destination. Let's speak to the BBC's Damien Grammaticus, live with us from Düsseldorf Airport. Damien, I'm sure these are terribly moving scenes that you're seeing there at the moment.
Well, yes, you're right, Ros. This is the Düsseldorf Airport terminal where those passengers were heading to, that flight was heading to. What we've seen here, relatives have arrived. They've been taken in here by representatives from the airline, from Germanwings, inside where they're being cared for in a location secluded inside the terminal building. We understand that there are care teams there are counsellors, airline officials too, and among them, of course, relatives, friends, and we believe possibly some families. From reports are that one town, Haltern, about an hour's drive north of here, there may have been a school party, a group of children on that plane. That's not confirmed, but the mayor there has been talking, saying that that's a possibility, and those families may be heading here too.
And are the authorities in Düsseldorf providing the families with information that perhaps isn't being made public, or do the families know no more than you or I do at the moment?
Well, we simply don't know that because they're obviously, the families themselves are obviously being kept inside. I'm sure the airline will be giving as much information as they can to the families to keep them abreast of the situation and of what they know. But we know that the chief executive of the airline, Germanwings, he's been out speaking in the last hour or so, and he gave a more sort of detailed timeline of the events that happened, saying that the plane took off at exactly 1 minute past 10 local time. At 35 minutes later, it was already at its sort of cruising altitude, pretty high, 40,000 feet, when suddenly it began to descend rapidly. That descent lasted about another 8 minutes or so, he said, before it descended to about 6,000 feet. There was no the contact then was there was no contact with air traffic control. It was lost contact at that point, and that is the point at which we believe the plane crashed into the mountains in